So the first thing that you're going to want to do is find your composition. We talked about this in the last video. You can either use your viewfinder or you can use your photo editing software on your phone. Just make sure that your composition is the same proportions as the paper that you're going to be drawing on. If it's not the same proportion, then your final drawing will be skewed. Once you have your composition, you're going to want to apply a charcoal ground to your drawing paper. Use the same technique as we did before, lightly applying charcoal with the side of your compressed charcoal in two directions, and then rubbing it softly in a circular motion with your chamois. Using the rule of thirds not only helps you find a successful composition, but it can also help you get your drawing on your paper. So if you're using a printed reference photo, you can go ahead and draw in the rule of thirds right onto your photo if you're not using the viewfinder, which will already have the strings to show you where those lines are. You can then use your charcoal to lightly sketch in the rule of thirds on your drawing paper. So I just eyeballed it and try to get it as close as I could without measuring. But if you want to take the time to measure out your paper into thirds, that's never a bad idea either. The next step is to sketch in some of the basic contour lines and shapes that you see in the fabric. So take a look at the fabric and identify the strongest contour lines that you see. You can use the rule of thirds to help you figure out where exactly those lines are going to go on the paper. You don't have to get every single contour line in, but you want to try to get all of the main ones in, and also any main shapes that you see that are created by shadows or highlights. Having this information on your paper is definitely going to help you when it becomes time to start shading. So here you can see me using the grid while looking at my reference photo and using that grid to help me get some of those main contour lines on the right place on the page. If I can see which quadrant I'm in of the drawing and I can see where that contour line crosses that rectangle, that really helps me place my lines in the right place, and it takes away some of the guessing of the drawing stage and just get some of the correct proportions in there very quickly. Remember, if you need to make any restatements, if you make a mistake, you can always just take your chamois to rub out any lines that you're not going to use and then draw them again. Before you start drawing, you want to take a few moments to notice the difference between the hard edges and the soft edges in your fabric. You're going to have both, and when you're doing your shading, you want to make sure that you're representing them accurately. So here I'm showing with some blue lines where some of the hard edges are. These are areas where there is an obvious distinction between values, where it quickly goes from a darker value to a lighter value. With pink, I'm showing where some of those softer transitions are, where it goes from light to dark or light to medium or medium to dark, slowly and more gradually. Now it's time to start using your charcoal, your chamois, and your eraser to start shading your fabric. So just like before, you're going to go back and forth between using additive and reductive techniques to add charcoal in to the shadow areas, and then also to use your eraser to take some of the charcoal out of the areas where you need more of a highlight. So you're going to want to really be paying attention to the shapes that each shadow makes on your fabric and try to replicate those shapes. Also remember to think about the edges and those edges that you identified as being a hard edge or a soft edge. And remember that sometimes a contour line can start as a soft edge and then become more of a hard edge and then become more soft again. It all just depends on the fold and how it's catching the light. You'll notice also that I'm working in the cast shadow and some of the kind of the background as well as I go. Remember that the surrounding value is going to impact how the other values appear. So I want to be kind of working on it as a whole approach and not really just single in on one area at a time. So I'm building up kind of a large area quickly before I go back and start to refine those areas. So I'm really trying to block in certain areas as I go and kind of get a general sense of those values before I go in and start making them more specific. Remember, the chamois is really a great tool here. It can do so many things. It can help you blend areas, so those areas where you have those more subtle transitions, the chamois can be great for blending. But it also can remove charcoal, so if there's an area where you want to lighten, but maybe not so much where you want to take your kneaded eraser, you can often use the chamois to just remove small amounts of charcoal and lighten an area that got a little bit too dark as well. You can also use one of your drawing stumps to help you smooth out areas, especially if you have a more detailed area, like maybe an edge or a very thin shadow where you just want to go in and your finger won't quite do the job. You can use that stump to go in and really perfect that little area. And you'll see me just continuing to work here, both taking away and adding, so that additive and reductive approach, going back and forth, continually blending and continually thinking about which areas have those hard edges, which areas have those soft edges, and what the shapes are that those shadows and those highlights are creating. It really is about the shapes. Even though you started with some contour lines, remember, you don't want your final drawing to feel like it's outlined. You want to show those contour lines through shifts in value and not because there is either an eraser line or a black charcoal line outlining the folds. Thank you so much for watching this demo. I hope it helps as you go and start to draw your own fabric drawing. I can't wait to see them. Have fun. Bye-bye.